Welcome and thanks for buying my book. I really hope you enjoy it. The reason I made this revised edition, or one of the biggest reasons, was that I wanted to include this video to help people learn to work with their numbers based on some of the formats I've used in the examples in the book. Now, sometimes I know a lot of people go through and they look at it and they glaze over it, but it's really important that you understand how to work with your numbers. And these formulas in these examples I have in the book are really important. Now, one thing that you come to find out with building new developments, new buildings, it's more of an equity play. It's not a cash flow thing. So it's not about your gross rent multiplier or your cash on cash returns, because I mean, if you think about it, you've got that whole pre-construction period and where you're doing the design work, and then you've got the whole construction period. So a lot of times your property's not even coming online for a year or two or more after you get started. So your cash flow doesn't even start until then. But the equity you're building is happening during that whole period. And that's what I want you to understand from the numbers when we look at it today. So let's talk about that for a minute. Again, there are four ways that we increase equity in a property. One is we can buy it at a discount. And in this case, you might get your land cheaper, or you might be able to buy the land and then rezone it, which makes it worth more money, things like that. The second thing is you add value, and that's usually done by buying a property and renovating it so that you can reposition it in the market. Well, new construction is like the ultimate value add because you're building, the whole building is brand new. And so you're building all that value into it there. So that's a big place where you're gaining equity. I call it your equity bump, which we'll take a look at when we take a look at one of these examples. And the other places that you're building equity, of course, is by your mortgage pay down. You're paying down your principal every year on the mortgage by your rents that are coming in. And lastly is your price appreciation. So normally buildings appreciate every year, and we're going to look at that also as we go through this. So one thing I want you to understand is that this whole book is written from the perspective of an urban developer. And I'm here in Chicago. The examples we use are going to be in the Chicago market, but it really doesn't matter where. You've got to adjust these things by plugging in your own numbers, because different locations are going to have different construction types, different construction costs. You've got to work with local professionals in order to know your market. So you got to get out there and talk to brokers. You've got to talk to contractors, architects, lenders in your local market so that you can start to get a feel for it. In an urban type market, normally you've got people around you doing some similar projects that may have caught your interest, and you want to do something similar to those. That way you're going to have comps for your rents and your construction costs and things like that. So the material in the book is really geared towards that. And I spend quite a bit of time explaining how to find the right professionals to work with, which is also very important. So let's take a look at one of the examples in the book, and we'll dissect some of these numbers so that you can get a feel for it. Okay, just a second. So here we go. Let's take a look at this project. It is 3 units. There are three bedroom units above a commercial space here. And so this project is, here in Chicago. It's again, this is just an example. So this is on a standard lot. It's 25 by 125 feet, the lot. And so 25 times 125, that's 3,125 square feet. And the way our zoning code works here, this lot is zone B2-2. So it's a B zoning. It's on a busy street. You've got a commercial space downstairs. And that allows what's called an FAR of 2.2. So FAR is floor area ratio. And basically what that means is that if you take the lot area, 3,125, times that 2.2, the floor area ratio, we're allowed to build 6,875 square feet above grade. So that allows us to build these 3 bedroom, 2 bath units, which are in big demand here, right? So this is all straight out of the book. This is in the book that you can see there, right? Now, again, I do suggest that if you have the print copy of the book, download the PDF so that you can look at these on the computer. If you are fine looking at them in the small pages in the book, that's fine. But it's easier to see them if you get the PDF and you can blow it up to whatever size is comfortable for you. So again, we've got 3 units and 1 commercial unit here in the building. It's 3125 square feet of lot area. Buildable area is 6875 is our maximum buildable area. In this case, our building total square feet is 6,800 square feet. And we've got about 1,700 square feet per floor that we're building. So if you look at some of these assumptions here, the land price in this case is $350,000. Now, our soft costs are in here. If you look at our total number, it's $1.7 million, and soft costs probably have gone up a little bit now with the increase in rates, but generally you're looking, depending on the project, usually maybe 10 to 20% in soft costs, and normally, maybe around 15% in soft costs. This might be a little bit less than that, probably not too far off. So anyway, we've got 350,000 land costs, 220 for soft costs. Soft costs include your loan interest and points on your loan, includes your architectural fees, building permits, and all kinds of things like that. In this case, it might, anything that's not a hard construction cost. So our construction costs are $1,139,000, and that's based on 6,800 square feet at $180 per square foot. And so for the ground floor, I put that in at only $130 a square foot because that's unfinished space. You only put in like 1 little bathroom for the commercial space, and otherwise the whole ground floor is parking, storage, and the commercial space. So that's going to be cheaper to build than the units upstairs, obviously. So those are the numbers that I use. Again, construction costs are probably higher than that here now, but that's just, it's going to be different where you are anyway. You're going to have to adjust based on the construction type and the construction costs for your local area. This is a full masonry building. You may be building a frame building, so it's going to be different, right? So you're going to have to put in numbers that make sense for your project, right? Now, we've got a total cost of $1,709,000. You add those up. Those are your uses of capital. They add up to $1,709,000. So where do we get this capital? Number one is, in these assumptions, we're assuming that we're putting in 30% equity, or our initial cash investment is 30% of this total cost. That's $512,000. Now, our construction loan is going to make up the balance, which is actually 70%, not 80%. But this is the correct number here. $1,196,000 would be 70% of that $1,709,000. So that's where we're getting our money. We're putting in this 30%, and the other 70% is coming from our construction loan. Okay, these are our assumptions. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go through a standard cash flow analysis. We've got to be able to project what our rents are going to be. So hopefully we've got some comps nearby that we can come up with a good idea of what we're going to be able to rent these units for. And in order to do that, you've got to have a good idea of what the units themselves are going to look like and what the building's going to look like, so that can extrapolate how much rent you're going to be able to get, right? Again, as I said, in an urban area where you've got new buildings going up nearby that might be similar, it makes it easier to do those comps, right? So in this case, our residential units, we've got 3,300 we're renting for the top floor, 32, 31 for the second and first floors respectively. And then our commercial unit, again, this is not a high dollar retail strip. So it's a small unit. We're getting $2,250 a month for it. So our total gross monthly rental income, $11,850. All right. Now, second here. We've got our expenses now. We've got to figure out. So repairs, maintenance, getting the place cleaned once in a while. There's not too much here. It's just the entry hallway and going up, and so not much to do. You've got your taxes, property insurance, sewer, water, scavenger, utilities. Again, utilities aren't much because you don't have a lot of common areas here. But your monthly operating expenses are $35.60 in this case. Again, these numbers have changed. I put all these numbers together in the last quarter of 2021. So everything has changed since then. You know, expenses have gone up, rents have gone up, interest rates have gone up, construction costs have gone up. So everything has changed. But it really doesn't matter because you're going to have to plug in your own numbers here anyway. So the important thing is to see how these formats work and then come up with one for yourself that makes sense for you in your market. You know, you're not necessarily going to be exactly like this, although this is a pretty standard cash flow analysis that we're looking at right now. Okay, so you've got your gross monthly rent, your monthly operating expenses. So now your total annual operating income is $142,200, right? We take from this. And then our total annual operating expenses are $42,720. So this gives us our annual NOI of $99,480. So right around $100,000 in net operating income from this property, right? Well, at a total cost of $1,709,000, that gives us a cap rate of 5.82%. And that's a pretty good cap rate for a brand new building. That's all, you know, with brand new, everything new here, right? So let's go through our loan now. Obviously, rates have changed dramatically since the end of 2021. So this is going to be a big factor, and we're going to talk about this for a second. Now, our initial cash investment is $512,000, 70% is the loan amount. That's this $1,196,000. But we've got a 30-year amortization at an interest rate of only 4%. Well, can't get those anymore, right? So as soon as your rate goes up, that is going to wipe out your cash flow here, isn't it? Right? So you're going to have to adjust the rates. But again, rents are higher now quite a bit. You know, so all these numbers have to be adjusted. And if when you've got things in here, the things that you can control is you may have to put more cash in the deal. Maybe this has to go up to 35% or 40% in order to lower your loan amount so that your cash flow is still going to be workable for your deal. Okay, so all these numbers, you're constantly adjusting them and trying to make them work in a way that makes sense. You don't want to be reaching and trying to do something that is just crazy and doesn't make sense. You got to have something that you think is achievable, but it does take some adjustment of these numbers and trying to balance and rebalance them to get them to work for your project. Okay, so we're just going to carry on with this. We've got a total annual cash flow before taxes, $30,944, right? Now, we had our NOI back here of $100,000. And now let's take a look at the equity side of this equation. And this is where we're really going to get into some of the stuff that you need to understand that's going to be different from maybe what you're used to. Okay. Now, again, our total hard and soft costs is $1,709,000, same number. And in this case, I've got a completed and stabilized appraised value. And what I've done is I've taken this $1,709,000 and I've divided by 0.88. So in other words, I'm saying that when the building is complete and leased up, it's going to be worth 12% more than my cost to build it, the total cost. And that gives me this number, $1,942,000. This is actually very conservative. Appraisers and lenders generally will tell you that if you're refinancing a project that is brand new and completed and leased and stabilized, usually rule of thumb, they're looking at about a 15% bump above the total cost that went into the building. This I call this our equity bump. So the completed and stabilized equity bump. In this case, taking those numbers, it's $233,000. So right away that goes to your equity, right? So I put in this 512, plus I've got that 233 in equity as soon as it's completed and stabilized. Now, my principal reduction in the end of my first year of operation is $21,000. And my annual cash flow, I add back in $30,944. I have to put that in somehow, so we'll just put it back in here. You could use it to pay down the principal if you want or whatever, but you have to add it back in. Now, appreciation, I put this in at only 3.5% per year for these first few years that we're going to own it. That's a pretty low number. Appreciation has been much higher in recent years, but I wanted to make these numbers very conservative. So that's 67,000 in appreciation, which is 3.5% of this $1.9 million up here. So when you add all these numbers up, your equity at the end of your first year of operation is now $865,768. And the value of your property now is going up by this 3.5%. So it's now $2,010,000. So this is after the first year of operation. So don't forget, you had a year of construction, 1 year of operation now, right? Coming into your second year, the principal reduction is again 21,900. It's a little bit more. I left the annual cash flow the same. And again, this same 3.5%, but now it's based on this number is here. So my equity goes up to 988. And then likewise in the last year, again, your principal reduction, annual cash flow, and this 3.5% of this number, which gives you a total equity at the end of your third year of operation of $1,115,000. So your equity has more than doubled over that time. If you were to sell at this point, your value, having gone up 3.5% per year, is now here. And if you sold it at that value, after paying off the construction loan and paying off, your closing costs and commissions, closing costs, and everything like that, which are substantial here in Chicago, is about maybe up to 7% or something like that. You've got $913,000 as your net sale, right after that. So that's your net of sale. You put in $500,000 initially, and just looking at it briefly, these are the IRR numbers that I figured based on these cash flows that we've been talking about. After 3 years, and you notice it's higher after 2 years because you get that big equity bump in the beginning, and then it stabilizes after that. So it's actually higher after 2 years than it is after 3 in terms of the IRR. But IRR, I don't think is really that important. You can use it to compare one project to another, but it's not the most important thing to look at. But I just included it here so you can kind of get some idea. Now, what I'd like to look at, most of the stuff here is based on this number here, this stabilized appraised value. And this is a very conservative number. Another way you could do this is to base that number on cap rates. And this actually, you could argue is a more accurate way to do it if you've got some good examples of cap rates for newer properties in this area. And I'll just show you what that could look like, because it can make quite a big difference. Bear with me a second here. Here, and let's take a look. This is from my website, and this is, again, the same example. I got another picture in there, but these are the same numbers, same total cost, same amount going in, same construction loan, same typo here. Instead of saying 70%, it says 80. We've got our same rents and incomes, same expenses, same net NOI. Our net operating income is $99,000. So again, this cap rate is here, and it's again based on the same interest rate and loan amount and everything. So your annual cash flow before taxes is still $30,944. But now, when we look at this page, we've got our total hard and soft costs of $1,709,000, same as before. And our net operating income is $99,000. I just put it on this page. But now we're looking at a stabilized value based on a 4.6% cap. And when you look at it that way, that's going to give you a value of 2,162,000 based on a 4.6 cap. And actually, especially for back when this was done, that was probably a higher cap rate. A cap rate could have been actually much less than that, that some of these places are going under 4% for some of their caps on newer properties. But in any case, just based on this 4.6 cap, we've got our initial equity at 512, but that gives us an equity bump now of 453,000 rather than the 233 that we had before. So that's a huge difference, right? So being able to put a value on this thing when it's stabilized is really important. And that's what an appraiser is going to do, but new properties definitely sell at a premium. So this is your equity bump. Now, the same principal reduction and cash flow added in, your appreciation number goes up because it's based on a higher number here. So now my equity is increasing faster based on this bigger equity bump and this bigger appreciation. So I've already doubled after the first year of operation. I've already doubled my equity. And then coming into my second year, I'm way up to 1,225,000. And my third year, I'm at 1,300,000 already, right? Now, this value, of course, is going up too, based 3.5%, but it's based on this higher number. So this is my value at the end of my third year of operation. Excuse me. So after paying off the construction loan and my closing costs and all that, my net of sale now is 1,142,000. And so I've made way more than doubled my money over this period of time. So this gives you an idea of what these IRRs look like now. So again, I think the numbers in the book are overly conservative. All these numbers have changed dramatically, so I'd have to completely redo them, even if I was doing a similar example here in Chicago. But it really doesn't matter anyway, because you have to apply this to your market and your project. So you've got to come up with a model for this. Now, if you're not good with spreadsheets, I suggest you should get somebody on your team who is. So just a second, let me stop this share just a minute here. And yeah, so if spreadsheets aren't your thing, I suggest you need somebody on your team who can do this, and then sit down with them and go through these numbers so you understand it. And like I say, you can go through it with your lender too. So this, again, I think is the most important takeaway from the book, is that you learn how to work with these numbers and understand that equity side of the equation. And if you're going to be building, this is how you're going to figure out whether you've got a good deal or whether you don't. And once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. Okay. So enjoy the book, and I hope you really get a lot out of it. If you have any questions, let me know, and good luck with your developments out there.